Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Kshabirya Jatraha Stirairangaihi Tushtuvagam Sastanubhihi Yashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Svastina Indro Vrdhashravaha Svastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Svastina Starkshyo Arishtanemihi Svastino Brahaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verse 2 was the last major verse of the teaching, which was completed yesterday, which was the metaphor of the two birds teaching. And the first bird, assuming it has understood, the question now is, what's it like for this first bird now that it's gone through this long journey, and what's going on in its mind? How does it see the world? How does it perceive things? What does it think? And so, verse 4 says that Jnani has no desire to become someone. Verse 4. Pranaha hi eshaha yaha sarva bhutaihi vibhati vijanan vidvan bhavate na ativadi atma kridaha atma ratihi kriyavan eshaha brahma vidam varishtaha. Brahma shines as the universal prana. Prana just means that which sustains all beings. That means life force. So the Lord of all shines as the universal life force in you and I, in all beings, in all elements. So this means that where is the Lord? In the very life force that I'm experiencing right now. That is the Lord there. And then it says the Vidvan is the wise one. That means the Vidvan, one who possesses wisdom. They transcend debate by seeing Atman everywhere. If you are born in a family of scholars, that obviously means you are not born in Asuri wombs, as we said yesterday. You're probably born in a Daivi womb. But, it's hard to tell, it doesn't matter because we said, whatever you're born, what now? But suppose you're born in a family of wise people, and they have the guru, the father is well taught, and the mother is well educated. And does that mean that you will be exactly the same as your father and mother? It doesn't guarantee, because one can fall. One can say, my dad and my mom is so smart, therefore I take refuge and I don't have to do the same thing. So they carry this pride about them, but without actually continuing the lineage of their father and mother. So now, what he wants to say is that it doesn't matter where you are born. You can be born amongst those who are not wise, those who are not Vidvans. Yet, your refuge is the Shastra, because that is the source of knowledge. You can be born in an ordinary family and you discover the Shastra. You have found the wisdom, as opposed to someone who's born in a family of those who have the Shastra and yet never attended to the Shastra. So in other words, you have found something incredible, which is, and the Guru you have found and the Shastra you have found. And that is rare. So it doesn't matter where you're born. And then it continues. It says that by knowing this Lord in all beings, in all things, by knowing the Lord in all things, one transcends debate.
What is debate?
Debate, confrontation, need to opinionate, need to judge.
Debating.
Debating. In other words, one transcends, one no longer feels that compulsion to go out there and prove people wrong. One no longer is bothered when someone says something that is incorrect. Why? The important question is why. You have a wise person who is listening to debates which are without substance. They're erroneous, they are partial, they are not well cooked up. It's almost like cooking an egg, half cooking and then serving it. Okay, it's okay, but it's not complete. Everyone is learning their lessons. Everyone's on the way to knowing the truth. Anyway, it's like I was once riding from Byron Bay. I used to live in Australia, Byron Bay, to see my parents in Sydney. And that is about a 10-hour drive. It was a great drive because you just chill out and listen to audios. And on the road, you see many cars, but you get very familiar with those cars because you see the red car every once in a while. It's like, I saw this car for the last 1 hour. And you just constantly overtaking each other. Sometimes you get, a little bit angry, you overtake them, and they just relax. And suddenly something in them flashes, and now they overtake you. And then almost at the end of the journey, we're all there still together, traveling to the same destination. So we had our quarrels, but end of the day, we still made it. In other words, my end in sight is always the same as everyone else's. It's just that people take different times to arrive there. They arrive in their own different ways, and they will arrive because that is how creation is designed. It's inbuilt. Everyone is going to get there eventually. And so by exercising a little bit of empathy and compassion, we also tend to help ourselves so we're not so bothered by other people. And that's why we said the wise person in the Gita is a well-wisher. This is a Daivi Sampat attribute. A well-wisher. I wish you well. Let me say my part. If there's a disagreement, that's okay. Change the topic. Continue. I wish you well. Because that is what the nature of the Lord is. You could say the Lord is the ultimate well-wisher for all. And so by aligning oneself closer to the Lord, you too become a well-wisher. This is a trait of a saint. I just wish you well. When someone makes you angry or there is some conflict, then walk away. I wish them well. Because they are confused perhaps, and that confusion is not easy to eradicate. And you already know that in your experience. Okay. If people were not like that to me, I would have not been here. So many students were patient towards me when I began teaching. I would make mistakes, and then I would look at the videos, and I was like, I cannot believe I said that. It just slips out. Now imagine a student, looks at that and goes, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But the fact is, I needed to make mistakes. It was just innocent. You even say a prayer, Lord, please use this instrument, that it speaks well, that it delivers the absolute best, that it gives all it's got. Even with that prayer, errors come out. Now, if you were on this side, you would definitely appreciate your dear students, having that patience for you. And so it's like that, having that patience and generosity for others to make mistakes. That is one of the greatest gifts you can give to anyone, to accommodate their mistakes.
Yeah. Can you also see it like when you go into a debate, just because you want to, because you think you are right and the other one is wrong, then you connect with with the duality, and when you stay out of it, you can connect or stay connected with the non-duality.
Okay, very good point. So in other words, in the heat of the moment, let me address the debate, the matter at hand. Let me address it right now. When I'm away, I wish them well, because ultimately they are none other than the Lord, and I am none other than the Lord. So you're reconnecting to that sameness between both of you, because I understand in the heat of the moment, that's relatively hard to do. Okay? So yes, that is possible. As long as there's a follow-up and you understand where they're coming from, and you know that both of you are just at the end of your, you're both just journeying through this. As I said, when you see a person, lying horizontal, yesterday you were saying hello to them, next day they're lying horizontal, lifeless, then your entire perception of all those debates changes. You see, wow, so this was, I actually missed that now. I suddenly missed that. So you see the fragility of the person. And so we always reconnect, if we choose to, if we can, to that common shared unity that we all have. Why else does one transcend debate? Because if all that is here is just oceans, one ocean, and every word, every thought and word and sound is like a wave in that ocean. There's nothing but just waves. You're just talking about different waves, wave. Whether it's an ugly wave or it's a pretty wave, you understand the truth of all waves is always one ocean whose truth is water. So that is why I remember this one little cartoon of Buddha. He looked like this, and he was approached by a debater, and the debater asked him, what's the meaning of life? And Buddha says, to discover your nature. And the debater was like, you're wrong. And the Buddha says, you're right. You see? Because in other words, you're only ever dealing with one reality. If it's something to be done, if you can do something, wonderful. But there's no like this urge, like I have to save the world. I have to save you. I have to save people. You're relaxed because everyone is going to discover that journey and everyone's going through the journey anyway. Therefore, patience becomes something that's normal for you. Patience out of understanding, not you need to be patient. Patience out of understanding. It takes a long time for us to develop even just slight satisfactory results in our lives or some slight tangible goodness in our life. It takes a long time for that. I'm sure you certainly appreciate all of those who have been patient towards your mistakes and foolishness. Yeah, none of us would be here if at least one character didn't have that in our life. Someone did, thus we have attained or come to a relatively good place in our life. Yeah, so this means a well-wisher. Thus, I have no need to engage in debates. If something needs to be said, I say it. But if they continue to resist, that's fine. Move on.
Is it also that the wise feels complete? So he doesn't need to be right to feel complete?
Yeah. In other words, when you're identified with this thought, just mithya thought, I'm identified with a mithya thought, they understand there's a certain, ultimately substance is always going to be that oneness throughout. Yeah, so that means I'm highly identified with my thought. It's just a cloud, end of the day. Okay. But again, does not mean that the wise person is passive. Krishna was very active, constantly correcting those, offering gentle advice to Yudhishthir, to Karna. He was constantly going out and just offering himself. He was not passive at all. But at the same time, when he goes up to Karna and says, Karna, you have 5 incredible brothers. You're son of Kunti. And he realizes this and he says, why did I know this? Well, because, Kunti was just very embarrassed. She was very young and she didn't know how to, she was not ready to have this child. And so she just put you in a cradle down the river. She was just not ready. And so Karna hears all of this, and he Krishna says to him, you still have a chance to do good. You have a kingdom, your brothers have a kingdom, thus you are very welcome into a family that loves you. But Karna did not take this advice. He said, I am loyal to Duryodhana. My loyalty lies in one man. And so this was Karna's mistake. You could say he was what we call loyalty without questioning to whom am I loyal to. You see, I was loyal towards a man who I was initially loyal to. A man or a woman who is intelligent, discerning, dharmic, they do the right thing. And now I discover that this man or woman isn't that. Are you still obligated to be loyal? No, this is not what I purchased. I purchased, I got into something else. And now, in other words, that was his choice. And thus he paid the consequences. So he decided to argue. And did Krishna continue to argue him? Karna? You're wrong. I'm the Lord of the universe. You have any idea who you're debating? Not even the Lord had a reason to argue. See, this is a wise person. It's like, okay, I've given to you my point of view, Mrs. Karna. I've presented you the facts. You have wonderful family. You say no? Okay. You'll come to that realization eventually. And thus, he was not affected. Krishna just walked away, and what did he say, Krishna, to himself? He said, I've done all I could. I've done all I could. Now I don't feel any guilt. I've walked up, I said what needs to be said. They said no. Even if you have totally ascertained, got your stuff down to the letter, and you present that, if it's not received, at least you can walk away and say, I have done the best I could. Thus I can walk and not take this on personally. It's not about you.
This has also got to do with keeping your mouth shut by sharing the teaching on wrong moments, or to your family, or to your friends. Because you're going to disturb them. So it keeps the sensitivity for that, usually. Yeah.
One time I said happy birthday to my dear brother. And I said, dear divine child, happy birthday. To world peace, Andre. And I got a response back, 3 pages long, saying, oh, thank you very much, but I just want to correct something that you said. We are not divine, we are sinners, and then a whole reasoning how we are not divine. That kind of made me not want to say happy birthday again. So that's what Simon is saying. Innocent, and yet the advice was given in a wrong context, wrong time, it had no place. And it scars a relationship. Yeah. So this means hold back. Sometimes it's better to hold back and preserve a connection. It's much more important than being right. Now, verse 7, definition. So what is it now that this wise Vidvan, the knower of the self, what do they appreciate? They appreciate the self as, let's see, the definitions of self or consciousness. Verse 7, Brhat cha tat divyam achintya rupam sukshmat cha tat sukshmataram vibhati durat su dure tat iha antike cha pashyatsu iha eva nihitam guhayam. One last time, reiterate the definitions of consciousness. And it says it is Brhat, limitless. What does limitless mean? Without beginning, no borders? Okay, it's just a fraction of that, yeah. It's the only thing that is. An even shorter definition of limitless is without a second. It doesn't have two. The moment you have two, one limits the other. If I have one, that's all there is. If I have two, then B is limiting A and A is limiting B, because B is not A and A is not B. So limitless means there's nothing other than it. It's the only reality there is. Therefore, self alone is. It is limitless. If there's no two, then will you ever know self more than you know self right now? Think about this. Because if you say, yes, I will, what you're saying is right now I'm experiencing one version of that which is limitless, that is a self, and tomorrow I will experience a bigger version of self. But we just said it is limitless. So you will never be more aware than you are now. You will never be more self than you are now. You will never enjoy more consciousness than you're enjoying consciousness now. Because it's the only thing there is.
Limitlessness implies it cannot ever be an object, because that would imply duality again.
Exactly. So limitlessness is the only principle, only reality there is. Therefore, it can never be turned into a thing that I see, because then I have to put it into a form. Limitless is this, and I am the perceiver, I am different from that. In other words, will you ever see limitlessness? No. You have to understand it. All that is here is that limitlessness obtaining as these different forms. Very important. It is the only thing that is, therefore, it is in objects, it is obtaining as the objects, and it's always known in all objects as the isness of an object. And then it says divyam, which means pure consciousness. So another word for pure is attributeless, nirgunam, without gunas, without traits, without qualities, without any kind of things you can give onto it, without adjectives. Therefore, can you call this Brahman love? No, you're giving it an adjective. Loving Brahman. What about divine Brahman? Supreme Brahman. These are things mentioned in the scriptures.
Actually not.
Okay? This is wonderful. But eventually, you need to understand it is just consciousness. Need not attribute any adjectives onto it, because it becomes very confusing. Even the whole original consciousness, reflected consciousness, can become an issue.
It's the only reason why freedom is possible. It's free of anything, so any concept.
Nothing sticks onto it. Thus, it has no attributes, because it is the whole thing. That which is the only thing there is can't have a second. A second is an attribute. And as far as attributes go, they're nothing but more of the same thing. It's like a little blob attached onto a ring. You got a ring made of gold, and you have a little blob attached onto the ring. You can't call that blob an attribute. The blob is the gold, the ring is the gold, there's only gold there.
You said this is very important, this knowledge, but you can tell me, anybody can tell me, I can believe it, but that doesn't mean you know it. We still stay within the one bird, unless the two birds are joined. It's like I'm not into the believing thing, because it will always be separate of the realization of the.
Okay, no problem. So if it's not taking place, that's why we keep on inquiring. That's the only answer there is. If I don't know it, that's fine. That's the first step.
But knowing is not the same as a mind thing.
No, this kind of knowing is not an intellectual. Like, I've heard this. Yeah, this is a different kind of knowing. This is a knowing so deep, so assimilated, that it is without the need to know it anymore. It's without kind of, let me check up, do I really know it? It's not a memorized fact.
No, it is some type of realization.
Yeah, it's a permanent recognition of what is. That the very awareness that is through and through your thoughts is the final reality. There's nothing other than that. And even when it's there, people still come and listen to it. Why? Because there are still thoughts going on in the mind. And they're still pulling me down into this person. They still want to make me they still make me as though I'm a person. So the contemplation continues. So we already said the stages. First, investigate what I am not. Who am I? Reconcile Now, does that mean that I'm going to walk out with this knowledge complete? No. That is why re-listening again and again and again. It's simple as that. Now, if someone converts this into a bubble and they live in this enlightenment bubble, no worries. Ishvara is designed to pop the bubble. And it always gets popped. Something gets said and they start to re-question in there, I don't know if I know this, and they will, come back to the teaching eventually. Okay? So there's no question of fooling oneself because that is already going to be popped for you. Okay. Achintya rupam, not available for thought. It's funny how they always come up, the next thing. It's like, don't even ask any. What does this remind us? It's not available for thought. It means do not turn it into a mental image. Because the mind loves even limitlessness. It goes, limitlessness is over there. It presents this sort of an image of limitlessness. You can't do that because it says it's not a thought, it's not an imagination, it's not some experience, boom, that's just occurred right now. Why not? Because if anything that is bound to a thought was not there just a second ago. And now the thought for the first time arose and you go, this is it. I've got limitlessness. Limitlessness means that which obtains in the past, present, and future. It was there all along. Not only that, but to say I have got limitlessness now, where is limitlessness happening? In one single mind out of trillions of minds in the universe. And yet limitlessness is that which has no boundaries. It is all pervasive. It cannot be bound by anything like space. Therefore, it is not to be turned into a thought, but understood as the very substance of every thought. Painful thought is. Terrible thought is. That isness is the very Brahman. Therefore, it never went away. Which means you cannot know Brahman as any given thing. It cannot be known as any particular thought, imagination, insight, epiphany, bubble, sensation, feeling, revelation. It cannot be transferred because to transfer it means it travels from one place to the other. It is to be understood as the existence of all things. But what do we want? We want the existence to be pretty. We want the mithya to be pretty. So then we get caught up. No. Let me just change my mithya again. Okay, let me just Great, I love that. You forgot something. You forgot that the thought exists. The very truth, the very substance of that very thought is Aksharam Brahma. So what's the relationship between your thought and consciousness? It's a Satya Mithya relationship. What's the relationship between your ahamkara, your sense of I, and Aksharam Brahma? It is a Satya Mithya relationship. Wherever I, the individual, am, that's exactly where the final truth is. I don't have to go out there and seek it. I don't have to go anywhere and seek it. It is right here, right now, obtaining as me.
And that it remains a mystery.
It remains a mystery, not. It remains a mystery until it's no longer mysterious. It was mysterious while I didn't get it. That's why Raja Guhyam, Raja Vidya, it is the greatest secret. Even those who are yet to get it, for them it's the greatest secret there is. Those who got it, we will see, the wise pashyante, the wise see. The wise understand. This is the last statement. It doesn't say the wise consider it a mystery, but the wise see this as clearly as seeing your own hand.
No, that is Satyam. We are and we are.
Yeah, therefore it's not a mystery. Because even the concept of mystery, that's another mithya thought. That's what I want to communicate. We keep on getting into these thoughts after thoughts. It's a mystery, it can't be known. It is the greatest secret. When will I know it? Mithya, mithya, mithya. And the mind's been so much thinking about mithya after mithya thought that even when the knowledge comes, it continues thinking and trying to mold and shape, whereas the wise person understands where thought is, that's where its truth lies.
I wanted to ask, this is now subtle. Isn't the understanding this, the understanding of the wise, the seeing of the wise, isn't that also thoughts? The very understanding itself.
The very understanding is another mithya thought, understood to be none other than that which I enjoy all the time, which is my awareness. That is the final reality. It doesn't matter whether you understand or don't understand, that's another mithya thought.
The only thing where I know I don't need a thought is I am. That's clear. But I am, knowing that I am, doesn't mean I know I'm the whole. So even the realization itself, the seeing of a wise person, can only be in form of a thought. You know what I mean?
We call that akanda akara vritti. It is a vritti, but it is not a thought that you keep in your mind of a person that I am the limitless being. You just remove the doubt that makes you not want to find out who you are anymore because you recognize your truth. That means the doubt goes away. So whether you want to call that a thought or not, it doesn't matter. The point is doubts have gone away. That need for seeking more, for inquiring more into the question, who am I? What am I? That is gone. And whether you want to call it a thought or not, there's only one here. Wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where satyam is. So why does it matter that it's a thought? Whereas before, it was a thought, but the thought was real. And so the thought bothered me. I was good as the thought. That's the difference.
Can't you just say...
John?
Ramakrishna says, light without its physical properties and known qualities. I think it's great. It's light without properties and qualities.
We just said in a previous, it is pure. Without properties, without qualities, it's the only thing there is. The gold doesn't have properties. There's only, whatever properties it has, it's just more gold. So in that sense, there's no second. That's why I say pure consciousness. But you can even remove the word pure away eventually. Just consciousness. Simon?
Oh, I had thought, can you just say, I am it? And when you don't say I am, you are it.
Yeah.
So there's no thought anymore. You just are it.
Yeah, but see, we knew this.
Immediate identification.
Yeah, see, we knew this all along. Nobody needs to say I am. Not even a ajnani, an ignorant person. It's just that we clarify what it means to be, what it means to exist. Before, the meaning of existence was as good as my body and mind. Now, my meaning of existence is much bigger than the body and mind. It's not bound by the body and mind. So what it means to be, to exist, that's a shift. That's an identity change. Nearer than the near and farther than the far. Durat sudure iha antikecha. It's nearer than the nearest thing. Is your hand near to you? Is your clothes nearer? Yeah. What about memory? Is that even nearer? Yeah, but what's even closer or nearer than memory? Because memory still sort of has to pop up when I ask you. What's the nearest of the nearest which has no nearer? Me, self, I. So in other words, suppose you say thus, I'm waiting to know Brahman. I'm waiting to know Brahman next retreat. That whole thought that you just said is none other than Brahman. Maybe I should have not said that, so no one's going to come to my retreat next time. But you got to do what you got to do.
But as you said, even if you know, you come back.
Yeah. I'm gonna make more games to keep you coming. Some interesting games.
No.
Farther than the far. In other words, it is here now. What's going to be in the future? Same Brahman. In the future is Brahman, now is Brahman, in the past was Brahman. Because we always want Brahman to be in the future. But that would have been true from the that means that future is now. Because if I said that same statement 1 year ago, isn't this the future? From 1 year ago? Yes. So now when I'm here, I say again, I want Brahman to be in the future. So Brahman is in the past, present, and the future. No matter how far you travel out, what's always going to be there? Next, hidden in plain sight. In other words, it's present here in your very buddhi. Nihitam guhayam. I wonder where it is. Let me go inside my thoughts very deep and bury myself in some kind of a special samadhi. I wonder where, let me search inside for some light. Next verse, more defining words. Na chakshusha grhyate na api vacha na anyaihi devaihi tapasa karmanava jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha tataha tu tam pashyate nishkilam dhyaya manaha. Okay, so Brahman cannot be seen by the eyes, nor described by the words, nor attained by the rituals. Can the flashlight illumine itself? In the presence of flashlight, everything else is illumined. Can you see yourself? In the presence of self, everything is seen. Because if you see yourself, you're trying to turn yourself into a object. You're the very presence, the very light because of which experience shines. You're the very flashlight because of which things become revealed, known to none other than you. Therefore, it cannot be seen by the eyes because you are it. Cannot be seen by the mind because in the presence of you, the mind is seen, the thoughts are seen. In the presence of this one light, a pure mind can be seen, but also an impure mind can be seen. So neither of them taint me, neither of them define me. Yeah, okay, so in the stillness of the mind, so this is why we say antahkarana shuddhi. You need a pure mind because you don't want to just to know it in the stillness of the mind. It is known through and through all states of mind. Okay? So we don't need to put these stillnesses of the mind to know the self. Because we said still mind is just a mind. It's known to me. Impure mind is known to me. Can't be described by words. Interesting. We've just been describing it through words. Can't be described by words. However, you need to put a filler in. Can't be described by words without a pramana, a means of knowledge. For instance, how do we use limited words to communicate a limitless meaning? Because every word is limited, isn't it? So even the word sat, existence, is limited. And yet existence is pointing to a limitless reality. How does a limited word communicate a limitless reality? Well, Vedanta has to show you there are two natures of a word. One is vachyartha and the other one is lakshyartha. When I say existence, what is the literal definition of existence? Yeah, it's there. Exactly, it's there, right? It's not over there. So existence, okay, pen exists, right? So the word existence in common language just means that which is within time and space. We take vachyartha out and we have to point out the intended meaning of the word. What's the intended meaning of the word? So I have to cancel out, it is not existence within time and space. I have to first cancel out what I don't mean. What I do mean, so I have to bring out what I do mean, is existence because of which time and space is. That means it's not within time and space, but it is the existence in which or by which time and space enjoys its existence. It is the existence of an object, existence of space, existence of time, existence of that which was before space and time. Can't be attainable by rituals. In other words, can't be attainable by disciplines, yoga, spiritual practices. It can't be attained by any spiritual practice, nor tapas or self-mastery. It cannot be attained by mastering a mind, because any ritual or any action gives you results. But what is already here right now? Brahman is already here right now. So I don't apply an action to know awareness. What can an action do? If you remember, 4 types. Create. In other words, I can create a relationship with Ishvara. I don't have Ishvara relationship now, so I go out and I create a connection to the Lord. It can modify. It can modify my stories about the world, about myself, about everything. It can reach. An action is applied to reach from one place to the other. Brahman cannot be reached. It's already here right now. And it can purify. It can purify, for example, my emotional complexions. And all of these 4, create, reach, purify, and modify, are required for a pure mind. Therefore, the inquiry reveals the partless whole. Brahman consciousness, awareness, has no parts. Boundless. Can you contain it just to you? Can you contain it just over here? No. It has no parts. It is like space, partless. It is everywhere. So when are you not enjoying awareness? Never. And yet we try to go to meditation to reach awareness, as though it is a part. It's a little part only in meditation. You just said it's boundless. That means it has to be here now. It has to be in every state of mind. What's inside every state of mind? Existence of a thought, and 2, awareness of a thought or absence of thought. Therefore, awareness never went away. And thus, this very awareness is this reality. Therefore, stop imagining like you are separate from awareness. That is a problem of the mind. That's why we need a Gita. Because even when we say stop imagining that you are separate from awareness, the mind still imagines. If it's boundless, can you exclude yourself? No, otherwise it's not boundless. So the very thing you're seeking, that reality, is the very thing you are right now. We are so used to converting everything into a form that when we hear about awareness, it's no exception. We just turn it into another form. So the instruction for this whole seminar could be maybe a motto. Stop imagining you are separate from awareness. Don't allow the mind to do that, because it's been doing that for so long.
And it's so simple, and yet you made it so hard.
Look at that. Look at that. It's so simple, and we turn it into the greatest rocket science. Why? That is a mystery. And we will continue this soon enough. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.